A very good evening to all of you and welcome to the News at 6, where we get you the day's top developing stories, be it from India or across the world. I'm Tracy Shilshi and let's start with the headlines. Garbage mess takes political colour in Delhi. Rahul Gandhi assures party's support to sanitation workers. Strike is called off after the Delhi High Court orders the government to pay them. Aam Aadmi Party mulls action against Jitendra Singh Tomar. Party refers the fake degree issue to its internal Lokpal. Despite having a law banning it, India has the highest number of child labourers. Report states the nation will take 100 years to end the menace. And retail inflation is up at 5.1% in May against 4.87% in April. The industrial production grows at 4.1% in April 2015 against 2.1% in March. Our top story this evening, taking note of the sanitation workers' crisis in Delhi that was shaping up as a centre-state tussle, the High Court today directed the Delhi government to pay their salary dues for the month of May without any delay. This was on a day when Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi met the striking Safai Karmacharis in the city, assuring them of his party's help in their protests for their wages. The workers later called off their strike.
Amid the rising stench of garbage, a political fight is raging in Delhi. On Friday, striking sanitation workers finally called off their strike, but not before Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi reached out to them.
बहानों से आपका कुछ नहीं होने वाला है। आपका काम जब ही होगा जब आप दिल्ली सरकार को और हिंदुस्तान की सरकार को सफाई कर्मचारी की शक्ति दिखाओगे।
At the heart of Delhi's sanitation crisis is the tussle between the ruling Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. The government claims the BJP government at the centre has not released funds, a charge that the party refutes.
दिल्ली सरकार की केजरीवाल सरकार 2 साल के बाद जो दिल्ली नगर निगम का जो चुनाव आने वाला है उसके ऊपर केजरीवाल की नज़र है और वो इसके ऊपर बाय हुक एंड क्रुक कब्जा करना चाहते हैं.
At a hearing on Friday, the Delhi High Court warned of a health epidemic and directed the government to ensure immediate release of funds so that the East Delhi Municipal Corporation can pay employee dues for May.
आज ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट ने बहुत अच्छा ऑर्डर किया. बोला जी सैलरी तो आप अभी दीजिए, विद इन मंडे तक दे दीजिए आप और फ्राइडे को हमें स्टेटस रिपोर्ट दीजिए. और साथ में ये भी कहा गया कि अगर कहीं कोई ट्रेड यूनियन वाले ऑब्जेक्शन उठाते हैं, डिस्टर्बेंस करते हैं तो कमिश्नर को डायरेक्शन दिया कि आप इनको मदद करेंगे और ये इंश्योर कीजिए कि कोई लिफ्टिंग ऑफ गार्बेज में कोई डिफिकल्टी बीच में क्रिएट नहीं करेगा.
The court was also unhappy with the government's insistence that there is no provision for the release of funds and that the government will take a decision in its assembly budget session.
सफाई मजदूर जिस तरह से भूखों मर रहे हैं, जिस तरह से उनके अधिकारों का हनन किया जा रहा है, ये इस तरह की नीति बर्दाश्त नहीं होगी.
With the MCD garbage episode, though the central government had paid all the money to the state government was playing politics over it and not releasing the money to the MCDs. Only after they have been reprimanded by the High Court that they have released the partial amount of money to the MCD. Had they released this amount a bit previously, then Delhi would not have faced what it faced today.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung announced that 493 crore rupees will be released to the civic bodies on Friday itself to cover the dues. This was after mayors of 3 BJP-ruled municipal bodies and even the Congress requested his intervention.
आम आदमी पार्टी हो या भारतीय जनता पार्टी, ये जुमलों का सरकार, ये सेल्फी सरकार अपना काम पर आए और ये अगर इतना भी इनको शौक है सेल्फी लेने का तो कूड़ों का बैकग्राउंड लगाकर सेल्फी ले सकते हैं.
The High Court directed the Commissioner of Police to constitute specific task forces to oversee ward-wise garbage removal right away. It also restrained the associations of Safai Karamcharis from obstructing removal of garbage from dumps. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, in other news, after a meeting with heads of PSU banks, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asserted that public sector banks have assured more rate cuts in the coming weeks. Jaitley also hinted at more capital infusion in public sector banks besides the 7,900 crore rupees already earmarked in the budget.
There is good news for loan borrowers as the EMIs on home and auto loans could fall soon. Public sector banks have vowed to pass on RBI rate cuts to consumers in the coming weeks. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley says banks will work out the rate cut based on their balance sheet and other factors. Since January, the RBI has cut the repo rate by 75 basis points. However, consumers have been passed on benefits only of 30 BPS.
Over the next few weeks, they would be in a position to work out greater cuts.
Raising concerns over bad loans, Jaitley also asked banks to fix their swelling non-performing assets. Jaitley said that even though NPAs had come down from 5.64% to 5.2% in the quarter ending March 2015, no inferences could be drawn from this yet.
We did ask each of the banks which has a higher NPA level to explain the reasons and those groups on account of which the defaults were higher.
Jaitley also asserted that unclogging stalled projects is high on the government's priority. He also said there would be greater investment in the agricultural sector to propel rural demand. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
And now, in some more good news for the economy, the industrial production data released for April shows that manufacturing output grew at 4.1% against 2.1% in the same month the previous year. Retail inflation, on the other hand, also rose to 5.01% in May against 4.87% in April. The general index for the April 2015 stood at 107.7, which is a 4.1% higher as compared to the level in the month of April 2014. The cumulative growth for the April-March 2014-15 period over the corresponding period of the previous year stood at 2.8%. Meanwhile, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval will visit Myanmar on the 17th of June, days after the Indian Army successfully carried out a counter-insurgency operation along the Indo-Myanmar border. Doval will meet the top leaders of Myanmar, including the president there. He is expected to undertake the visit with a view to discuss further joint action against northeast insurgents. Meanwhile, security forces in Manipur have been asked to take protective measures and increase security in the wake of a retaliatory attack by the insurgents. A Naga delegation also met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the capital, urging him to ensure peace in the entire northeast region. All right, back to the capital now, and facing major embarrassment of the fake degree row involving former Delhi Law Minister Jitendra Singh Tomar, the Aam Aadmi Party today made a face-saving bid by announcing an internal probe into the issue. The party is likely to expel Tomar once the Lokpal completes its investigation. Opposition parties, though, are not content with the AAP's move and are demanding Kejriwal's resignation.
Already in deep trouble over his fake educational degrees, former Delhi Law Minister Jitendra Singh Tomar may have to resolve his legal problems all alone. If reports are to be believed, Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal is miffed with Tomar for lying about his degrees, while the party is mulling his expulsion from the party fold.
पूरा मामला आंतरिक लोकपाल को दे दिया गया है. उसमें क्या-क्या तथ्य विद्यालय से, कॉलेज से और यूनिवर्सिटीज से प्राप्त होंगे, उसके लिए पार्टी भी पूरा मामला इकट्ठा करके अपने ढंग से उस पर निर्णय लेगी.
Despite the damage control effort by the Aam Aadmi Party, rivals continue to train their guns on the Delhi Chief Minister, demanding his resignation. The BJP state unit even held a protest outside Tomar's residence.
आज ये कहकर के आप इतिश्री कर लेंगे कि आरटीआई की जानकारी गलत दे दी. जिम्मेवार कौन? जिम्मेवार कौन और इसकी कौन जिम्मेवारी लेगा? क्या वो अपने पद से त्यागपत्र देंगे?
Aam Aadmi Party splinter group Swaraj Abhiyan also joined in the chorus, saying Kejriwal has lost the moral right to govern.
Totally irresponsible on the part of the Aam Aadmi Party to have continued him as law minister and for Arvind to have believed some fabricated RTI reply that he produced from his college. So this has created a very serious doubt about the claims of the Aam Aadmi Party to be a party with a difference and wedded to some ethical principles, etc.
Meanwhile, Tomar was taken to Bihar on Friday for physical verification of his degrees.
बिहार लेके जाया गया है, मेरे ख्याल में पार्टी मॉर्निंग में पहुंची है वहां पर, और उसके अलावा हमारी साइमल्टेनियसली जो भी इन्वेस्टिगेशन दिल्ली में आवश्यक है वो हम कर रहे हैं ताकि इस केस का जो भी रेलेवेंट एविडेंस है उसको हम जल्दी से जल्दी इकट्ठा कर सकें.
Protests broke out at the Tilka Manjhi University in Bhagalpur against Tomar for defaming the varsity. With Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Supreme Court today reserved its verdict on petitions seeking the reconduct of the All India Pre-Medical Test 2015 for alleged irregularities. The top court, meanwhile, also extended the stay on declaration of the CBSE AIPMT 2015 results. The apex court had stayed the declaration of result after receiving several petitions demanding fresh tests over allegations of paper leak and cheating. The court had also asked the Haryana police to file a fresh report indicating the number of beneficiaries of the alleged irregularities. It had also asked the police to identify as many candidates as possible who had benefited from the alleged leak. The result was to be declared on the 5th of June. And now to a grim report. India holds the infamous distinction of being the top country in terms of child labour. And even as the government claims there has been a rapid decrease in the number of children employed as labour, unofficial statistics claim otherwise. A report by an NGO now says that at the rate at which India is acting against this menace, it would take 100 years to end child labour.
As the International Labour Organization observes World Day Against Child Labour on Friday, millions of Indian children lead miserable lives, working long hours in inhuman conditions, all in a bid to just get by.
स्कूल जाना अच्छा लगता है, फिर मम्मी पापा को हाथ छिल जाता है, बदबू आती, फिर मम्मी पापा को मदद करने के लिए हम ये काम करते हैं.
स्कूल जाना अच्छा लगता है, फिर स्कूल जाके ऑफिस में भैया से काम मिलेगा, ऐसा काम की तनख्वाह मिलेगा तो घर का खर्चा चलाऊंगा.
And their condition is unlikely to improve anytime soon. Child labour is decreasing at a dismal rate of just 2.2% per year. Child Rights and You, an NGO that works for children around the world, has analysed India's census data to reach this conclusion. The analysis also points out to another, more dangerous trend. Child labour in urban areas of the country has increased by 53% during 2001 to 2011.
We are at a position where we want to develop as a country. I think we will have a population which will remain underdeveloped. It will have definitely a strong impact on our economy tomorrow. Also, what is going to happen is that the whole concept of childhood is going to suffer. We will not be able to give our children education today, and therefore the generation tomorrow will suffer.
The number of working children aged between 5 and 14 years old has dropped to 4.3 million in 2011 from 12.6 million a decade ago. For this number to come down further, tough laws and tougher enforcement is the need of the hour.
अगर एजुकेशन अच्छा हो तो काफ़ी इम्प्रूवमेंट हो सकता है, और बाल मजदूरी ख़त्म करने का एक आसान रास्ता ये है कि हम बच्चों को अच्छी पढ़ाई दें, इस तरह की व्यवस्था करें कि बच्चे को लगे कि हमारा पढ़ना सार्थक हो रहा है, माँ बाप को भी लगे कि बच्चे की पढ़ाई सार्थक हो रही है.
Of the two conventions developed by the ILO, India has so far not ratified either. These include a convention on the minimum age for admission to employment and one on the worst forms of child labour. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's get you some more news from across the nation and nationwide. The search for the Indian Coast Guard Dornier aircraft reported missing on Monday evening with 3 people on board continued for the 4th day. INS Sindhudhwaj, a naval submarine fitted with sophisticated sonar equipment, joined a fleet of 15 ships engaged in the search operations. However, the search team is yet to get any clue into the disappearance of the plane. Activists in Arunachal Pradesh slammed the centre's plans to build 2 dams on the Siang River. Over 40 dams have been planned on the Siang River basin that originates in the Tibetan plateau as the Yarlung Sangpo River and flows into Assam to become the Brahmaputra. While none of the projects have yet taken off, activists from both Arunachal and Assam are opposing the plans. At least 14 people died while 20 others were seriously injured when a private bus in which they were travelling slid off the road and dashed against a tree near a village Behram in Punjab. The bus was on its way from Nawashahar to Jalandhar. It was passing through a deep curve when it slid off the road and dashed into a tree. Without a quick break here, but still ahead, Myanmar's pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi meets China's top leadership in Beijing. Details after this break.
Indian Railways, for decades crying for help. A new government panel report advises a big revamp. How realistic are its suggestions? And what is the right track ahead? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
375 people were killed at that Chasnala disaster. Then I have decided we have to, as a geophysicist, we have to do something for the mining industry. Any instrument, if you want to take it underground, there must be certified by intrinsic safety.
Watch Eureka with Dr. KKK Singh, Senior Principal Scientist at CIMFR on Rajya Sabha television. Watch the world come alive in your living room. Defining moments. Momentous events. News Tonight, your window to the world. Every night at 9 p.m.
Welcome back. Now, Myanmar's opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi is in China holding meetings with the top leadership. Suu Kyi's strategic visit comes way ahead of the Myanmar's general election that is due later in November. Critics say China is making a desperate attempt to rework the strained relations between the two countries. Suu Kyi's visit will conclude on the 14th.
A rare meeting for Chinese President Xi Jinping with a foreign opposition politician. But in hosting Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi in Beijing's Great Hall of the People, China is keeping a strategic eye on the upcoming general elections in Myanmar. Scheduled for December, it will be the first free vote in Myanmar for 25 years.
昨天，昂山素季女士已经抵达中国访问。全国政协副主席、中联部部长王家瑞昨天在北京会见了。
Even as the meeting was underway, an ethnic Chinese rebel group fighting the Myanmar military on the border announced a unilateral ceasefire, apparently under pressure from Beijing.
我们希望冲突双方能够保持克制，相向而行，尽快的 停止冲突，尽快的实现中缅边境地区的和平稳定和正常秩序。中方在缅北问题上的立场。
Suu Kyi's visit comes at a very critical time in the China-Myanmar relationship. Ever since the political reforms in Myanmar in 2011, relations between China and Myanmar worsened over various geopolitical issues. Suu Kyi cannot run for a president in the upcoming election, since Myanmar's constitution bars her for being married to a foreigner. But critics suggest her National League for Democracy is likely to become more powerful in the new government. And China is apparently hedging its bets by expanding its relationship with her. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Citing lack of evidence, German prosecutors have closed the probe into the alleged phone-tapping incident of Chancellor Angela Merkel. Germany's Office of Federal Prosecutor said that the US NSA had failed to provide enough evidence to justify legal action. The phone-tapping allegations came to limelight when the NSA contractor and whistleblower Edward Snowden exposed a large-scale US surveillance program in 2013, which also included Merkel's phone being tapped. German-US relations were severely strained when reports came out 2 years ago. Now, amid the looming Mediterranean migrant crisis, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott evaded questions on allegations that an Australian Navy ship paid the crew of a migrant boat to turn back to Indonesia. Abbott, however, said his country had developed incredibly creative approaches to stop asylum boats from reaching Australia. The country's immigration and foreign ministers have denied the allegations. Migrants from Bangladesh, Myanmar and Sri Lanka were on the boat reportedly heading to New Zealand, but were held in the island in northeast Australia. Indonesian officials expressed concern over that report. Under Australian law, no migrants or asylum seekers are allowed entry into its territories. They are intercepted and turned back or taken to detention facilities in the islands of Papua New Guinea. With that, let's take you through some more international news and updates in Global Buzz. France has formally opened an inquiry into the Germanwings plane crash. The inquiry will probe whether mistakes were made in monitoring the psychological health of the co-pilot who crashed the plane on purpose. A Malaysia Airlines was forced to make an emergency landing in Melbourne on Friday. The landing was made due to concerns over an engine fire. The Airbus A330 aircraft MH148 was headed to Kuala Lumpur from Melbourne with 300 passengers on board. Heaping pressure on Cristina de Bourbon to give up her succession rights, Spain's King Felipe VI has stripped her of the title of Duchess. The King's sister is embroiled in a tax fraud case, the trial for which will start soon. Heavy rain has caused major flooding in parts of Colorado state of the U.S. Streets turned into rivers in the city of Loveland, with much of the city swamped. The fast-moving waters flowed over streets and flooded several basements. And now let's get you all the sporting action from the world of sports. The Indian football team went down 2-1 against Oman in the home leg match of the 2018 World Cup qualification round. Oman, ranked 40 places above India in the FIFA chart at 101, scored through Qasim Saeed in the first minute and Imad Al-Hosani, while Sunil Chhetri was on target for India with a superb goal in the 26th minute. Sussex and England wicketkeeper Matt Pryor announced his retirement on medical advice from all forms of professional cricket. Pryor made the last of his 79 Test appearances against India at Lord's 11 months ago before undergoing surgery on his Achilles tendon. He leaves the international stage with 4,099 Test runs and 256 Test dismissals to his name. West Indies former fast bowler Wesley Hall was inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. The induction raised the tally of cricketers from the Caribbean to 18 in an illustrious field of 80 players who've been bestowed with a prestigious award for their services to the sport. Hall received his commemorative cap from fellow Hall of Famer Courtney Walsh on the opening day of the second test between the West Indies and Australia at Sabina Park on Thursday. An Australian rugby player broke his arm on live TV while arm wrestling with another player. Former National Rugby League player Ben Ross's right arm snapped just a few seconds into an arm wrestle with former NRL star Wendell Saylor. He was then taken to hospital after the incident. Chile scored a 2-0 victory over Ecuador in the opening match of the Copa America. The second half goals from Arturo Vidal and Eduardo Vargas gave hosts Chile an emphatic victory over Ecuador. Vidal scored from the penalty spot in the 67th minute after being pulled down by Miller Bolaños before Vargas latched on to a pass from Alexis Sanchez to double Chile's lead with a low right foot shot 6 minutes from time. That's all we have for you on the news at 6, but the news continues on Rajya Sabha TV after this break. Stay with us.